the core does have a tendency to turn off. Um, when I focus a little bit more on full body engagement and knowing where the right places were to feel uh, the movement, let's say, things do start clicking a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's funny because the conventional knowledge of like what you should be feeling isn't all wrong. You know, like a push press is supposed to activate your pecs and a pull down is supposed to activate your lats. You know, I think oftentimes we can kind of, at least for me personally, I've completely disregarded that at a point in my journey. But now I'm
Right.
seeing like, no, it makes complete sense. Those are the prime movers. Now you got to be able to position yourself so that they can actually do their job as the prime movers, and then
Yeah.
everything else is just stabilizing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's
Like for example,
oh yeah, go for it.
no, no, go for it, Jake. Go.
It's interesting. I was so it's my last week at work. So I just went outside. I'm at Delta's campus and they have a basketball court or just a half side of it. And I was shooting and I noticed that my shoulders don't face the basket when I finish my shot. And I started to wonder why. And I realized it's because my left glute is weaker and my pelvis tilts because I my both of my glutes, whenever I use my legs, like through the movement of shooting the basketball, one of my legs is weaker. So it like my whole body tends to compensate. And I legit rotate my shoulder blades. Like I mean, it's just crazy how much your body tends to compensate based off of like one muscle not properly doing its job.
Yeah, that I've noticed a similar thing. Like playing basketball most of my life, I've definitely
Bro,
noticed just being completely rotated in one direction, and it's not.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. I like my even it affects my form like all the way through to my arm because my arm will remain straight, but my shoulder blades and my entire body will rotate. So,
yeah. What's funny is that coming back to shooting, because now I mostly just focus on high jump, but going back to shooting anytime now, and I just can't miss because my body is just like more connected. I'm able to hit the positions that I know I have to hit because
that's facts.
I feel like a lot of the times, like coaches and stuff, like especially in track and field, where they're telling you to sprint a certain way or jump a certain way, shoot a certain way, you just can't, your body is just limited physically because you don't know how to get into the joint positions to do it. So that's why this stuff is so dope because you just do the work and then you'll naturally see, like, okay, now I can actually do this kind of form that they were telling me all along. Yeah. So what up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Anybody have any specific questions?
Uh, the muscles on the bottom of my feet are super fatigued still. Do you have any like recommendations for that? It's kind of plantar fasciitis-y. I did jump on the scale and realize I had gained like 10 pounds, and I was like, that might be a factor. But so I am trying to do a little bit of dieting just to go with the exercise. Because I figured if I, lose some weight, it obviously make me put a little less strain on my feet. But I've been trying like some inserts and stuff in my feet, but like do you have any like recommendation for just like rolling out your foot or like what to do for like um for that?
Yeah. Rolling out is good. I definitely get in there with a lacrosse ball, or even a golf ball, a little bit smaller. You'll be able to get into the crevices of your foot a little bit better. And like really,
Okay.
really put pressure on it to get into those trigger points. Sometimes personally, I'll actually just stand on it and put my entire weight on the ball. I'll hold on
Yeah.
to something for balance, but I'll put my whole entire weight on it and just kind of like, I mean, it's painful as hell, but it really feels a lot better and more open after. Then
Yeah,
besides,
yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So it's not gonna do anything bad to me, like if it's hurting a crap ton while I'm doing that.
no, I mean, I always like to look at the feeling afterwards that you get. I mean, if the pain continues, then you probably did something bad. But
Yeah.
typically, like that doesn't happen. If the
Yeah.
pain, if it feels better and more open, then you did a good thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, aside from that, foot pronation drill, like really like watch the video that's in the program and like just
Mm.
like literally hammer that home. Like I still till this day do foot pronation drill all the time. That also
every night.
yeah, every night, bro. Every day at least, for sure, once a day at least.
So
Um
what exactly does the foot pronation drill like train you to do again?
the foot pronation drill trains you. It's basically like a mobility drill through your for your foot
Yeah.
specifically.
Is
So
it like you shift what like from like pro into pronation and like out of pronation, right? Is like that's like the main.
yeah, basically, but that sounds really simple, but a lot of people actually pronate through their ankle and just let the hip
Oh,
jump inside as opposed to actually flattening their foot. So it should feel kind of like a plunger. So you're pushing the plunger down when you move the shin forward, and then you're pulling the plunger up as you bring the shin back.
oh.
I have
Is
noticed that
that from the
it's
contraction of the muscles in your is that pulling up from like the contraction of the muscles that are in your feet itself?
Yes, but you don't like once you get it, it just kind of happened. Like, and it's not only the foot too. Like, you got to really like feel through the whole chain. Like your calves are working, your hamstrings are working, your quads are working. That whole leg is like really,
Yeah.
really active, and that's what's gonna make it connect the right way. Because if you're
Yeah.
only using your foot, if you're only trying to think about your foot, then you might as like it's just like any other like hip mobility or shoulder mobility. Like you got to integrate the whole chain. But
Okay.
yes, then what will happen is that it will naturally just feel that suction on the ground.
Mhm. And do you think I should like start with like do like all the myofascial release stuff, then do like foot pronation drills, or do you think order matters?
Yeah, order definitely. Well, you can make a case for different sequences, right? But what I like to do is I'll do myofascial release on the bottom of my foot, then I'll do foot pronation, and then I'll do some single leg stance to just really
Mhm.
lock that in, like with balance and proprioception. Uh,
Okay.
and then if I'm feeling spicy or like I just want to get more work in, then I'll do some RDLs or I'll do some other movements, lunges on top of that as well to integrate it with the whole body.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think that could be a really good sequence for you, man. Like just what I laid out.
Awesome.
Yo, coach, I have one question about the foot pronations.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, I'm curious, like in the video, you spend a lot of time breaking it down, so I feel like you don't actually do a full set. I'm curious, like how you execute that. Like, how does that set? How long does that set take usually? Like, how intensely focused are you on that? Like, I find myself taking upwards of like 3 minutes on one set because I'm literally like trying to lock my heel into place and like focus on getting that perfect movement. I don't know if I'm overthinking it or if that's like a good way to approach it.
No, that's actually a really good deep question, man. So I'll just show you guys what I do. It kind of looks different sometimes because sometimes I'm trying to go really in depth, and this is sort of what I'll do. Sometimes I'm really more a little bit more focused on the workout portion, so training strength and power and whatnot. Obviously, I'm always more focused. The priority is always mechanics, but it'll slightly shift based on a couple factors. But basically, yeah, sometimes I'll be a little bit less focused on the mechanics, and sometimes I'll be obsessed with the mechanics. So I'll show you guys kind of what this looks like for me. Like, let's say I'm doing this at night. I'm just kind of like winding down before bed, just kind of like ironing out some kinks in my body. I like to grab onto something like this. And that way, yeah, grab onto something like this. And that way, I don't have to think about balancing. And I can really push my foot in the right position and feel pressure through the right places. So then I'll go and I'll really just play around with it, honestly. I'm positioning my foot, I'm making sure the toes are nice and even on the ground and not scrunching. and I'll go really slow at first. And just really kind of like, just like the bicep example I give you guys, like just bringing your awareness.
Hey.
What's up, Chris?
Oh, sorry. You just froze for a sec while you were explaining, and I was like, oh shoot.
Oh, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, it was more that the video froze.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going real slow, really trying to position everything. And then once I feel like I have like my awareness is like fully in that foot, then I'll start to go a little bit more just like rep focused. So instead of like going like super slow and grindy, now that I have position, then I'll just kind of like go back and forth and play around with it, trying to hold that position, hold my tension through the whole chain, but really just going a little bit faster so I can actually get that movement in. And just now, what I was feeling is my right glute really opening up, because you really want to feel, especially when you're able to lean forward a little bit like I am, you're kind of like almost doing like a little mini hinge, and you'll feel that glute loading up when you position the foot properly. So the hip activation goes hand in hand with the foot activation. When you do one right, then the other will follow.
All right.
So yeah, was that helpful, Manny?
Yeah, that was helpful, but I noticed that your back leg was actually your like back heel was up. Do you like sometimes do one or the other?
Yeah, honestly, since making that video, I've trended towards having the heel up, because what I find is that it allows me to put more of my weight on that front foot, and I don't have to think. I found myself thinking about the back foot too much when the back foot doesn't really matter, you know? So yeah, I like putting the heel up, kind of similar to a lunge or like a kickstand squat or anything like that.
Okay, that's good to know. I might have to try the heel up a few times to see how that changes it. Um, Also, I guess like related to that, I guess that affects like your torso position, because if your heel's like up, you can kind of like I guess like hinge a bit more basically and get deeper into the hip.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoy connecting it to the hip. Also, what I'll do, so I just showed you kind of the, what I showed you was a little bit higher up, like a little bit less range of motion in the hip. Sometimes I'll also go all the way like down here, and I'll just like groove it in like this. I'll even sometimes like take this back foot off and kind of like in a hinge, like just an RDL position, and then move my foot back and forth. And I'll just like play around with a bunch of different things. And then from here, what I'll do a lot, I'll bring the foot forward just like I would like in the pronation drill regularly. And then I'll do some hinges, keeping that shin angled forward. And that's going to help you get into your glute like crazy, because when your shin is forward and you keep it locked there, then you have no choice but to come through the hips and load the glutes well. So I'll really just play around with it. Like once you understand the basic concepts of how your foot should kind of flatten and pick itself up, then you can kind of do, you can do a lot of different variations with that and just play around with it.
Yeah, I think I have one last question about that.
Yeah.
Do you like have you changed your I guess like cues or like feedback mechanisms in terms of like what you're thinking about in your feet? I know in the video it was about like point like the outer edge of the foot being like heavily pressured and kind of like the letting the like I guess like top arch and the toes and the inner arch like be a little bit more loose so you can get that motion through it. Is it still the same? Has it like changed at all for you?
Yeah, also good questions. Yeah, I love how you keep me on my toes, Manny. Mostly the same. Something that I've started to find is that for me personally, this might be different for some of you. My toes and foot like to be compressed. So like if this is my foot, everything likes to be kind of like scrunched together. So what I'm finding is that if I'm able to open that foot up, kind of just like elongating the spine, it's the same thing with the foot. I'll think about elongating my foot all the way through to my toes. And then basically, like when I do that well, when I do it like really deeply inside of my foot, then I'm able to actually like really come bring my hamstrings on, bring my whole posterior chain on, and feel the stretch in the soleus better as well. Because a lot of times, like in the past, I've had a lot of Achilles issues. Still, if I'm not careful, I'll still actually get them till this day. But and I think the reason why is because I'm not really loading my soleus as well as I could. And that happens because my foot is so scrunched up. So really the main principle, regardless of the cues I use, because I think those are always going to change as I understand things better, just really like bring yourself inside of your foot, as weird as that sounds. Just
That makes sense.
yeah. And you'll feel, if you do that, you'll feel everything you need to.
It's actually kind of
Yeah.
crazy. Like to think about like how if you practice this long enough, you technically should be able to put all of your focus in a specific area of your body at any given moment.
Bodybuilders are really good at that. Like, I mean, obviously, like we talk a lot of shit about them because they're bodybuilders, but bodybuilders are really good at that. I mean, I think if it was just applied slightly differently, then they could be really good athletes. So it's like you said, Drake, same thing with the foot. Just like I've been practicing this like since I put you on that actually, Manny. I think it was back in July. Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while.
yeah, June,
Yeah.
July. Like I've practiced that. Maybe I've missed a couple days in a row, but like mostly every day I've practiced that drill. And literally every week, every month, it's just like, oh shit, I did not feel that before. So it keeps on building for sure. The feet, I feel like, are maybe one of the most kind of dead areas in our whole body, at least for
I
me.
agree. That's why I was asking these questions because I've been doing that drill for a while and I feel like I've gotten like varying amounts of success from it throughout, doing it. I've hit peaks and valleys with it for sure. And it's made me like completely reassess like my like foot mechanics. And I wear barefoot shoes like pretty much all the time, like walking pretty much everywhere.
Me
So
too.
yeah, and like I don't know if you've noticed this, Drake, but the the way your ankle like moves in barefoot shoes versus in like regular shoes that have all like the cushion support and like are molded to your foot or whatever the hell. Like I feel like it's totally different and it's made me realize like I have no movement in my actual foot. Like my ankles have been doing all the work and like no wonder they're always like achy and cranky and sore. Like my foot's just been asleep.
Yeah, exactly right. Those soles lead your feet to just be asleep all the time.
Yeah, man. That actually
It's an
brings.
epidemic, bro.
So the foot is a class 2 lever, but people don't really use it like that. So what that means is you could think of like a wheelbarrow.
Hmm.
I've shown some of you this diagram before, but basically you have this fulcrum right here at the balls of your feet. And when you move forwards, like, or let's say like you're doing a calf raise, because that's the easiest example, you're gonna rotate through this fulcrum point, not through your ankle. A lot of people, like if you're running, for instance, if you're sprinting, a lot of people will move that shin forward and try and get a lot of that movement forwards through the ankle, as opposed to keeping the ankle fixed because your soleus is strong and you have a co-contraction on the front of your leg, the front of your lower leg and the back of your lower leg, and then you're just rotating through the ball of the feet. So a lot of people miss out on that.
Yeah, this explains like how you can see those dudes who are like relatively skinny but have the craziest like explosiveness and bounce, even with like very little like loading. They just kind of like pop. Because they have that like really good like leverage through the ankle like foot complex.
Yeah, movement is all about leverage. It's really understanding the physics of your body. It like that's literally all it is. This might help some of you guys too, like understand the foot pronation drill. So I don't know if you guys can see this. I could pull up another diagram that'll probably be better, but the soleus, which is where you should feel the stretch in your lower leg when your knee is bent and you're moving the shin forward, it's kind of wrapped underneath the gastroc. So it starts around where your Achilles inserts into your heel, and then it goes up even behind the gastroc, which is the big meaty part of your calf that everybody knows that sticks out, and it has two distinct heads.
And
So
the soleus is the one behind the gastroc. Okay.
exactly, yeah. So yeah, this is a good depiction of it. So you have your soleus here. It's flat. It's more like it's less toned than your gastroc, I'll say. So it's flat, and you'll see it comes up here into the fibula, and that's where it inserts. So it kind of goes across your leg like this. And then the gastrocs, you have two heads. So they're on top of the soleus. It's layered. And the cool thing about the soleus is that it's actually one of the most important muscles in sprinting. They correlate, there's a lot of studies that have correlated like really strong soleus with really fast sprint times. Like all the best guys, all the best sprinters have really strong soleus, most of them at least. So yeah, it's definitely really important. And the reason why I think is because the feet are just so crucial, and being able to actually leverage through the Achilles is so crucial for sprinting, really any like athletic activity.
So the Achilles attaches to both. Is there some sort of distinction within the Achilles? Does it branch off as like sort of two sliding parts of the fibers, or are they like connected together? And
I think from what I understand, the gastroc fibers just kind of attach like right here, as you can see. And then like, but you see,
okay, I see.
yeah, it's a little bit more superficial. And then the soleus actually merges with the Achilles almost.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so that's the soleus. Yeah, any other questions on that, Manny? Because I mean, this is an interesting topic. I've really grown to love the foot pronation drill and just
Oh.
understanding the foot function better.
No, yeah, this is great. Yeah, I didn't mean to derail the whole session into being like a foot
Nah,
breakdown thing.
Nah, man, I
Nah.
mean, this is helpful stuff. I mean,
There are more feet in this section than a Tarantino movie.
dang.
Yo, Chris got all the dad jokes, man.
That's true.
Man.
On a real note though, I found that I'm able to get like more intimate with my like inner physical body like this past weekend on like I guess we can keep this like is this I know it's live but like it's decriminalized, right? I won't even bring it like no, but seriously though, like if you actually like get on like just a little bit, you know, and then you focus and do. I did oh what's it called? Whenever you're on Stefan, you made a video about it in bird dog row. I felt my entire posterior pelvic chain or the chain literally from my upper spine all the way down into my calf.
Mm.
Like I felt the entire thing turn on because
Yeah,
I was so focused.
it can definitely be a game changer. I mean, I'll say that like early on in my journey, like I definitely did that a lot for sure. And like it definitely helped me like open up things and like connect to things. But I will say now I don't at all. Like I don't even remember the last time like I've done any like probably like 2-3 years really. But yeah, now I don't at all because I just found myself relying on it. Like it got to the point where like, oh yeah, I need to like grab like an edible or like I need to like go take a quick hit before I go to the gym, or else it was like I didn't feel as connected. And I just
Yeah, okay, that's real.
I saw that as problematic.
And no, you're right. Like creating a necessity on anything except your own person is poor.
Well,
Um, I, On occasion though, it go crazy. Like you can lock the in for a few hours on end. Like seriously, that's called getting in tune at its finest.
Drake, I'll be impressed if you could do that like on your own, like just get super locked in like that, like 3 hours, like just like lock in on movement.
Lock in on movement. That's the goal for this upcoming summer.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Any other miscellaneous questions? I mean, I think it's good when we talk like this about just random topics because ultimately I sort of have something to talk about. But I mean, if you guys have more interesting things, then I mean, it's on your mind for a reason.
I had a question about squats. So when I do my squats, I found two things. One, I have a tendency to hinge forward, which and I'm wondering if it's like a compensation thing I'm doing. And then also a lot of weight goes into my heels, but I'll struggle keeping the front two what do you call it, arches like pressed into the ground. And so I was wondering what your thoughts were there.
Okay, and let me just clarify a couple things. So when you say move forward, you mean like your whole
Like
body?
yeah, my upper body tends to, yeah. So I don't know if I'm supposed to try to keep it a little bit more straight or if it's natural for it to hinge forward. I feel like what happens is I'm trying to open up the knees, or press a little bit into the outside of the foot, um, to keep that foot position. And then somehow I end up dipping in a bit, like and my upper body goes forward. But then also I suspect because I'm not used to loading into the glutes, that this is like a compensation mechanism to avoid doing that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So what I find is that your foot loading in a lot of ways will dictate what happens up the chain in your hips. So
Right.
if you're feeling your heels a lot in a squat, then you're definitely gonna move forward. Like that's just the natural thing to do because if you're forward on your feet, your body's gonna want to lean back to balance. If you're back on your
Mm.
feet, then your body's gonna want to lean forward to balance.
Yeah, okay.
It's just like your body compensating. Like, and compensation isn't always a bad thing. It's just your body trying to figure stuff out based on what you throw at it or what positions you think is optimal. You know, so
Mhm.
I would say try and load, and this goes back to the foot pronation drill. That's why this drill is so key. And like I recommend every single one of you do it every single day because once you start realizing how to load your midfoot, and maybe this is worth another diagram here. But once you start learning how to load your midfoot, then you'll get into your glutes and your hips a lot better. And if
Mhm.
you're just sitting on the heels and you're not really like stretching, like putting a stretch on those fibers underneath the foot, that which is again what the foot pronation drill will teach you, then you're not going to incorporate the posterior chain to the degree that you are.
Okay.
Remember
Yo,
saying,
oh,
yeah, go ahead.
you keep going and then I'll comment.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember what I was talking about in the foot pronation drill, how when I really get deep into it and I load my foot right, I start feeling my hamstrings come on.
Right.
That's the same thing that you want to be able to feel. And you would think like, oh, well, it's just a squat. Why would I need to have my hamstrings on? You need to have everything working together. Like even
Yeah.
if it's not a hinge per se, and your torso is like a little bit up taller, you still want to have the hamstrings engaged. And this foot positioning is going to help you. Also, one more thing to add, it's like you don't always want to take, I forget who I was telling this to today, or yesterday maybe. Oh, it was Zach. I was telling him about the torque through his hands as it pertains to his upper body activation. And what I find is that the cues shouldn't be taken so literally, basically.
Right.
Everybody should have a different version of those cues that makes more sense for them. because
Okay.
sometimes it's not necessarily the external rotation that's going to get you to engage your pecs and lats in the way that I'm trying to get you to do. Sometimes it's actually a little bit of internal rotation. And some of you might be able to play with like pulling, like pushing up against your hands or pushing down against your hands. It's really a matter of what your specific mechanics is lacking. And then those different intentions of like, oh, okay, like where do I like push against? That's going to help you basically balance all of your muscles around that joint. So it's case by case. So don't just hear external rotation and only think of that. Really, the main thing in any single movement you want to do is that you are operating in line with gravity. So if you're on your hands, you want to feel 4 points of contact on your hand, and then your weight falling perfectly down through all of those points. If you're
Right.
pulling a cable, you want to feel your basically the mechanics of your body in line with the force vector of the cable. So like if I'm pulling something, like a lot of people will do is they won't really have contact with this part of their hand, with their pinky, especially with pull-ups. I find they'll kind of just like let their pinky just hang loose, their pinky ball hang loose here, but you really want to grab with the whole thing instead of kind of like grabbing it like this. Gonna grab with the whole thing and then pull, and that line of force is in line with your forearm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know that was kind of a tangent, but I
No,
hope.
but no, it's helpful. And it actually ties me back to something you said earlier, which was I was wondering about because you mentioned that with the foot pronation drill, the foot actually flattens on pronation, which I feel like I've been trying to maintain the arch um when I dump in or not dump in, but when I rotate in. Yeah, can you explain that a little bit or elaborate?
Yeah, it's really a balance because you want to maintain activation through the foot. Because the reason I don't like the word flatten is because that to me insinuates inactivity. And that's
Mhm.
not the case at all. Like you do to a certain extent want to maintain the arches, but you have to understand that the arches being active doesn't mean that they stay in a fixed position. You can be active through the arches, but they are dynamic in their movement. So it's
Right.
really, that's why, again, like it's a matter of bringing yourself into your foot and understanding, okay, I need to hold on to this activation through not only the foot, but through the lower leg and through the rest of my chain. And then as I move forward slowly, I'm still holding on to that same activation, but the arch is going to slightly shift position. And that's the same thing with anything we do. Like I was just doing a bunch of upper body movements and like a lot of rowing with cables, which I've like really been enjoying recently. But basically what I'll do is I'll find the right position for my shoulder and then I'll start the exercise. And it's just like you have to find a fixed position. You have to find first that position that feels solid, feels stable, feels connected. And then you essentially have to hold that same position, but in a dynamic way.
Right.
That's the whole name of the game. Because like anybody can kind of find the right position. Well, I mean, even that is kind of difficult, but it's easier to just find the right position and then let go of it as soon as you start pulling. But it's a matter of like, okay, I have this position, everything is firing like crazy. Now I'm gonna keep the tension on all of those places and just stretch the muscles that need to be stretched. And
Right.
that's why stretching is unnecessary. Because when you know like the conventional stretching, because when you know how to do that, then stretching one muscle at a time is just a waste of time. Because why would I do that when I can just stretch in a functional way, in ways that actually make sense to real
Yeah.
life?
Uh, just to build again on top of that. So with the upper body, what I've noticed with my shoulders is that there seems to be this optimal place where I feel contraction in both the chest and the lats when it kind of sits and locks in here. But when I go overhead, and this is where I feel a little lost because I know I have a tendency to shrug, for example. Uh, And so I've been wondering, how am I supposed to think about this here, particularly with the shoulders, because yeah, I don't know. Well, let's say I'm doing a lat pull down, for example. I don't know if I'm shrugging or not, if or if I'm in the wrong position. I don't know where the optimal position is when I'm doing an overhead pull.
Yeah, definitely no shrugging. So you want to be in exactly. I was also telling Zach this because he has shoulder issues. Is he in here? No, I don't think he's in here. But yeah, I was telling Zach because he's having problems with his shoulders, and he's been actually seeing remarkable progress following these principles that we're talking about now. But you got to take what you learned from that row and from the press, and you just got to bring it overhead. It's going to be a
Right.
little bit harder to go overhead for most people because of how the levers are set up going overhead as opposed to just going in line with your body. So something that could be helpful for you, number one, think about just fixing your shoulder. So as you go up overhead, and what's funny is that a lot of us actually don't have the mobility to bring our arm overhead with quote unquote good mechanics. Like I was doing this other day, I was just actually about to show you guys. I was literally just holding this weight up above my head and just really kind of feeling this shoulder right here just kind of fall into position. So there is some truth, I think, to like down and back, although I don't think that's an end all be all, because you couple it with the positioning of your spine, you couple it with like you really like activating your core, and then you find a position eventually where your lats are like firing like crazy. And like right now, my lat, this side, is like super chronically tight, but my shoulder feels like it's in a pretty good position. So I'm just gonna try and keep this shoulder down and basically rip my lat open.
Mm-hmm.
And like my delt is going like crazy. My lat, like it just really doesn't want to have the mobility to go overhead. But you're basically fighting to maintain the positioning of your shoulder and just let whatever stretches and opens up open up.
Right. And at full extension, is your core still locked in? Like your ribs still down completely?
You don't want to have the ribs locked down because it's again like the foot. If you're so intent on like holding the arches, then
Yeah.
you're not really going to be able to do that dynamic motion. So
Okay.
there's a difference between having your ribs like not flare and um basically what I'm trying to say is like you want to be able to extend at your T-spine without your ribs flaring.
Right.
So I mean, I guess I could just show you the difference. Basically, it's like a lot of people will do is get that extension that's needed in the overhead press because you can't, if I'm just in a line like this, I can't get my arm overhead unless I do some weird hypermobile stuff with my shoulder.
Yeah.
So you have to bend back, but most people will do it like this
Yeah. Okay.
as opposed to doing it through your T spine. So this is another thing too, is as you come down, you want to feel that T spine really get nice and big and that chest really come up. And then you push yourself forward, come back, big chest, and then push yourself through. And when you do that and you eventually find the right position, then you don't have to even worry about the 90-degree angles because it just happens.
Yeah.
It'll just stop. You just find it stop.
Will it be similar to like a squat where I'll feel the co-contraction all the way through the movement? Is that what I'm looking for? So with the chest and the lats, for example.
Exactly. Hamstrings and quads kind of just co-contract, and then the glutes are stretching and contracting on the way up
Right.
to bring you up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I think like again, like it's really hard to put it to words. It's kind of just a feeling. But once you fix everything, and then you understand that you just kind of like let go, but at the same time stay really focused on what you're keeping like tensioned, then you can move, and then the muscles will just naturally stretch, but in a more optimal way.
Yeah.
Because what typically happens is because we don't have this understanding of levers in our body, we'll just kind of move without the right leverage. For instance, like moving, like trying to move this up and extending at the low spine instead of actually extending at the T spine.
Yeah.
And that way you can engage the right muscles. Like just my lats and my delts are crazy on fire right now from 1 or 2 reps, just really focusing like that. And it's just like because I'm really focused on engaging everything and then keeping that locked as I'm moving.
Yeah. And it's also crazy how as the more I focus, the lower the weight goes. Like I'm just dropping down weights, you know? And but then some movements, it's like once I've honed in, then the weight just starts to pick up. Uh, so it's really interesting.
Yeah, you should find that you should be able to get a good stimulus. Like the better you get at this, you should be able to get a good stimulus with just body weight. Like even just an overhead press, like just doing this, if you really engage the right muscles, like you should feel everything working like pretty hard. And then
Yeah.
from there you can make it as hard as you want. Because once you can do it with a lot of tension in the right like proper mechanics, right alignment, then you can do it really easy, obviously.
Right. Oh, sorry, one last thing. For the overhead press, how flared should my elbows be? Because I've been trying to almost get them like everything 90-90, but I don't know if that's the right.
Pretty tight. They should be pretty tight to your body. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's the same for all presses. Well, the same for all of the 4 upper body movements. Vertical push and pull, horizontal push and pull. The elbow positioning or the upper arm positioning is always the same. No matter where the grip is. If the grip is here, elbow's the same. If the grip is here, elbow's also the same. And it doesn't matter if I'm overhead, if I'm pressing forward, if I'm pulling backwards, it's all the same. So
Okay.
yeah, I would say like right here, like 45, I think is a little bit too much. So I would say just keep them tight, but really it's like it's less about the positioning and more about feeling where the right position is. Because I mean, you're never going to be able to know like by sight the right amount of
Yes.
degrees, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yo, also, Cora, is that how you pronounce your name?
Sakura, yeah.
Cora. I was when I was with Stefan in Florida to activate my glutes when I was doing the lunge, I had to move. Like, for instance, if my left foot was out while my right was like I was on my toes, all I had to do was move a little bit to the left because I noticed that I wouldn't push through my midfoot. So he's like exactly right. The only way you can activate your glutes is if you have the ability to like move through your midfoot. Like because that's where all the tension is like legit comes from. So if you can't activate that, like the middle part of your foot, you'll
Mhm.
compensate naturally and never notice that it happened. So literally, I advise literally just like move to the left or to the right and then make sure your pelvis is straight forward, just like your shoulders when you're shooting at basketball. Ensure your pelvis isn't rotated left or right. Like ensure it's like straight forward. Like those two things are that will activate the glute so fast.
I'll have to play around with that. Get a feel for it. I appreciate that.
Those are keys. No, I appreciate you, Drake with that. I think it's like this feeling where like whether you're doing a single leg stand, a lunge, an RDL, you want to feel like your weight is loading. Like just like you would load like the belly of your bicep, you want to load your midfoot in the same way. Like you just feel everything kind of like center in on it. And for some people, it'll mean that their foot kind of like relaxes a little bit. And for some people, it's actually probably a combination of the two for any kind of person. But there's going to be some areas of the foot that relax as you do that, and there's going to be some areas that actually tension up.
So when I'm doing a squat, in the example you guys are giving, let's say when I'm going down, what you're saying, I should feel more load into the midfoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're probably do you ever like jog at all or run?
I don't really like to, not really, but but I do.
When you do you notice where your feet strike?
Not so much. I tried to run mostly on the balls, like heel to the balls of the foot, but I haven't. Yeah, I'm mostly trying to survive when I'm running.
Yeah, hey, if you get better at running, you're gonna start liking running. Because I grew up like with basketball, like running was always used as a punishment, you know.
Yeah,
So
well,
I
that's it. Yeah.
exactly. So I always hated running. I was like, oh yeah, I don't run more than like 100 meters, you know, like ever. But when I started actually understanding the mechanics and like started like feeling things connect, it's like, wow, I feel like I can run forever. But the reason why I asked that is because what you probably do is like if I were to watch you run, you probably heel strike a good amount and break.
Hmm.
So so
My bad. I didn't mean to emote on y'all.
so basically like, and that's actually why I really like running as an exercise to complement what we're doing here, because it'll give you feedback in a way that you can't get from just lifting weights. You know, and it's just like such a human movement, like running, like we were literally evolved to run. So
Right.
yeah, so what you'll want to do when you run is instead of kind of like coming to the ground with your heel and then rolling through, you want to like the heel, depending on what speed you're running at, like let's say you're running like 70, 80% of your max speed, the heel is going to touch a little bit, but really you're coming through the midfoot right behind the ball of your foot. So
Right.
the ball of the foot, like closer to the heel, that end of the ball of the foot, you're coming through there and rolling off of it, just like the fulcrum uh diagram that we were talking about. And the reason why that's relevant here is because we want to squat like what we would do in athletics.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because that's what's going to help you actually engage the right way, use your feet the right way, and then that's what's going to create the transfer between the two. You should see, like for me personally, when I do running, I'll see it translate to my lifting. I'll be like, oh wow, like I figured out this thing in my sprinting, and now I see that in my lifts, and vice versa. I figured out this thing in my pressing, and now I see that show up in how my arms are swinging in my run.
Right, right, right.
So the two are like a feedback loop into each other.
But are you saying though that there's a little less weight on the heel and more load in that mid to front of the foot?
There
I
So it's less about where the weight is. It's more about how you're moving through the foot.
okay.
So I'll show you another diagram that
So it's
hopefully,
like as I'm going back, I would imagine I would move part of my foot would start to that mid to front part would start to press down a bit more.
yeah. I always forget what to search when I'm looking for this image. Oh, I know. Load pattern.
It also seems like this is more tendered towards sprinting rather than long runs. Stefan, is that true?
Not necessarily. I wish I could find this diagram. Running mechanics, because it would show you guys exactly. Well, this isn't really what I want to show you guys, but basically this is like how different types of people run. And the question here is there an ideal foot strike for runners? I say yes. There's only one way, and it's mid-foot strike. But depending on the speed that you're going at, you're going to start that contact further back on the foot, if that makes sense. So like if you're just jogging, then yes, you're going to have heel strike, but not the way that most people do it. Because if you're going like this, the way that this diagram is showing, and you're literally like shoving your heel into the ground like a shovel, what happens with a shovel? It stops. It doesn't rotate forward. Like the shovel just stops in the dirt instead of rotating forward. So you want to position your foot and land and contact in a way where you're going to roll through that ball of the foot. And it's going to be slightly different at different speeds, but it's going to be the same outcome in that you're rolling through the ball of the foot.
Yeah, it seems like a more explosive way to run the way I'm imagining it, because it just feels like there's a lot more be going through the calf and then up the chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Stefan, whenever you are sprinting, it's like depending on speed that you're going at, start contact on foot further back. Like in that is implying like the slower you're moving, starting contact at the foot further back.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Because just think about like just try this. Just like run starting like jog starting at like 60% and then run start like 70, 75, 80% and then go all the way up into an all-out sprint. You're
Well,
gonna
if I'm
go from
sprinting, I'm on the front of my foot for sure.
exactly.
Right,
So you're gonna go
right.
from feeling more heel in the slower runs to feeling less and less heel and more forefoot, more quote unquote what people call the toes, but you don't really run on your toes, so that's a misnomer. But I guess the point here is that either way, no matter whether you're jogging or sprinting, you don't want your heel to actually contact the ground so hard. Like the heel, it's more of like a proprioceptive like touch, if anything, whenever you're locomoting. Whenever
Okay.
you're locomoting, the heel should not be pressured like that much. Like it really should just be brushing the ground. Heels are for standing. Yeah, heels are for standing, not really much else.
Noted.
Okay, so I'll be running to the gym tomorrow.
Okay, Andrea just actually found exactly the diagram I'm looking for. Hold on. Let me just open this in iMessage. Yeah, so this is it. So this is for running. So there's 3 different diagrams that I know like that are in this same format. So running is basically like 70, 80%, jogging is like 60%, and then obviously a sprint is like 95, 100. So when you're running, you're going to essentially start with a load right here on this part of your foot, then you're going to move back to the heel. So you contact here first, then your heel will drop down a little bit, and then you're moving forward. And this drop back is to essentially load your Achilles, because look at the spring-like ligaments and tendons of the foot and ankle. You see how this is a spring at the bottom of your foot, and then you have a bunch of springs here. This spring right here is where people typically have issues with like plantar fasciitis, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, so you need to learn how to operate this is what I mean whenever I say learn how to operate your feet properly. So yeah, so basically again, like just talking about this right here, start here on the outside ball, small ball of the foot, heel comes down, and then you're moving through the big toe. So that's pronation right there. You're going from outside to inside. That's pronation. That's how you do anything athletic, whether you're cutting, you're starting to sprint, you're already sprinting, you're already running. To move forward, you always have to pronate the foot. And that's why the foot pronation drill, again, like I love how we just circled back to this. That's why that's so crucial. It's because any activity you do athletically, if you're moving forward, you're going to pronate. And if you're pronating wrong, then you're doing it wrong and your body's going to hurt. And you're eventually going to get issues like Achilles pain, plantar fasciitis, ankle. People will oftentimes have chronic ankle sprains, all these issues because you don't know how to pronate.
Wait, so is pronating is in to out or out to in?
Out to in.
So if whenever you're doing the foot pronation drill, are you not only moving like back, like your shin slowly rotates back until your knee is like angled like 10-ish degrees? Are you also pronating that foot left to right while you're moving the shin back?
No, that's
Okay.
supination. That's supination.
Or the other way then.
When your shin is moving back, that's supination. So when your shin is moving back, that's why you start land. Because think about it. Like, imagine this guy is a little bit like further back, like his foot is just touching the ground and he lands on this part of his foot. His shin is going to be back a little bit more.
Right.
And then the shin will start moving forward. And right before he toes off, that's how, well, as he's toeing off, that's where pronation is happening because he's moving that shin forward. It's literally the same thing, like the same thing you're practicing in the pronation drill.
Wait, so does the shin move from like does it legit move like in this like the diagram? Like whenever I do my foot pronation drill, should it not move just like directly straight? Should it like move in a bit, like from like the outside of my heel to the big toe, or like other way or something?
A little bit, yes, but
Okay.
the reason why I usually cue people to stay on the outside is because, especially for people who've been athletes their whole lives, they're stuck dumped inwards with the foot. So it's better to, like, yes, this is happening when you're doing just the drill itself, but I wouldn't like force it. I would just I would think more of keeping everything straight when you're just doing a drill and then let it kind of naturally happen like this when you're running.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you focus on this, what I find, at least personally, is then I'll go and bias more, like too much into pronation in an unhealthy way, like the ankle pronation we were talking about before, you know? So yeah, this was a dope call. You guys did phenomenally with these questions. You guys got to bring more questions next time, man. I don't even know why I'm out here presenting anything when y'all got these good questions like this. All right, guys. Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave off. Appreciate everybody for coming. And nah, seriously, like bring questions next time because this was a dope call. I had a lot of fun personally.
Yeah, it was great. There's a lot for me to take away from the next workout for sure.
Yeah, start running.
Same.
Fun.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Kakura. I hate running too, so.
Yeah.
Hey man, by the time we're done working together, Manny and Kakura, you guys are gonna like running.
All right, we'll see.
All right, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Running to bed.
What's up?
I said running the best. You just gotta
yeah.
learn how to do it right.
There you go. That's exactly
That's what we're here for.
That's exactly it. Like, no, seriously, David Weck. I don't know. Some of you might know David Weck, but he always says, like, if you suck at running, like, it's gonna suck. It's not gonna be fun. But once you start getting good at running, it's so fun. Like, seriously, I could run all like I feel like if I wasn't a high jumper, I might be a long distance runner. Like, maybe.
You say that now, but try the 5,000.
I ran a half marathon. It was only because to keep up with my old man.
I ran a half marathon too. It was good because Stefan's right. Once you look, like if you have your muscles feeling good, you love to run.
You just you just feel like you're floating. Like it's just like such an effortless kind of like feeling. Like I don't know. I feel if you feel what I'm talking about, you would want to chase that more in running.
Right.
The
Effortless
peak at
in
the
running.
end.
Yeah, effortless is the way. What do you say, Samaris?
I said, and I live for the kick at the end.
You were a 400 runner, right?
Yeah, I did the 4x4, the 800, 200. I'm very biased. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were a runner.
Yeah, but nothing past 800.
I couldn't even imagine an 800. Even a 4, it's like, my God, that's tough.
I did cross country in high school and I ran like the 5K.
Yeah,
I
I
did
got
too.
5K and half marathons when I got old, and not fast.
I love to run the 5K. The 5K is great.
Hey man, maybe we could run a team marathon. I got to get some time to get in shape, but yeah, eventually maybe we could do an MYM marathon.
How
I
about
gotta
team
go.
sprint? Let's keep it short.
Put that in the group me. Put it as a poll. See how many people say yes.
We'll do
A poll.
it.
Wait. We got to pull for a 5K. You gotta, come on.
Yes,
Kakura
let's
just
vote on
got
the
into this.
distance.
Like he's not trying to do no half.
All right.
Whole marathon. What?
We're gonna do yeah, I'm playing myself because I know I'm not doing a marathon. We're gonna do an MYM mile. We'll do it MYM.
Oh,
I could do
like
a
we
mile.
should
That's
actually
fine.
do a series of competitions if we do something.
That would actually be pretty dope. Who do you think is winning in the mile?
Me,
You got that, Drake?
100%. I'm going sub 5 for sure.
Oh
What?
damn.
That's crazy.
No,
You're
that's
going
crazy.
sub 5.
Yeah, I'm whipping all y'all ass.
That's college. That's college. That my old college numbers. I can't run a 5
If I'm
anymore.
in shape,
I'm in
if I'm in
college, so
shape,
that's
I
the
can
only
hit
reason
Wait,
why.
what was your
sub.
fastest time? For the
505.
505.
No.
545 for me is the fastest.
So
But I have
fast.
short ass legs.
Drake, what's your mile time? Your fastest.
I hit a 505. Never was able to break 5 in the mile in high school.
All right, we
How
gotta
tall are you?
put that to the test.
6'3".
Gotta prove
Oh
it.
yeah, 5'7". So
Hey, still though, you got a lot of fast guys. You don't have to be tall. That's why I love run. Like you got some dudes who can beat it.
That's real.
Regardless fight.
Guys, yeah, we'll come up with some competitions. I'll give everybody a good enough notice so that we could all train up and be prepared properly. But until then, guys. Oh yeah, and guys, just like putting this on everybody's radar, MYM retreat. I don't know if you guys saw my stories from I think like last night I put it up, but yeah, we're looking at places. So September, October, MYM retreat.
Somewhere
So,
sunny, please.
oh, you already know, Kakura. That goes without saying.
I bet.
Yeah, that goes without saying. So yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on the details. We'll probably only be able to take 10, maybe to 15 people. So we'll let everybody know, like we'll tell you guys when we're gonna announce it, and then we'll just basically let people sign up once it happens. So yeah, just putting it on your radar. September, October, we'll be finalizing Andrea probably in like a couple weeks, right? Yeah.
I'm planning to have that in like the next 3 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. Next 3 weeks, we'll finalize everything. Let you guys know. Yeah. And then, yeah, you guys can save your spots because this is going to be dope, man. Seeing you guys in person and being able to, I mean, Drake knows about the in-person work. So, yeah, we'll all be
that's
able to-
honestly what like I really feel like some in-person stuff would like really help because it's like I don't know if I'm doing like some of these things right. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm doing some of these things wrong. So
Nah, Chris, you're definitely getting a lot out of it. Trust me, man. But yeah, no, you're right. The in-person work is definitely dope. And I think it's just like ideal for just connecting, like overall, like being able to kind of like just feel each other's energy out in person. It's going to be a dope time. All right, then, guys. With that said, I'm going to dip. This is a dope call. Again, bring more questions next time. And yeah, see you.
sweet.
Thanks,
Thanks.
All right,
You
bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Vaughn.
everyone.